The best build for our Super Break King Hugo Vlad, maybe I got the games mixed up. It's basically Super Break what he does, guys. I mean, he takes the stun bar, and then it goes from here, and then all the way down to here, and then resets back to here, and then you get a big damage proc off of it, depending on how big the meter is. But we'll talk more about how he actually works at the end of the video, so let's first give you what you came here to see. The best build for Hugo Vlad, starting off with his best in slot W engines first, and the best in slot here, what do you know, is going to be his signature W engine. And the reason this is, guys, is because first of all, it's giving you a base 24% crit rate increase, but not only that, guys, it's also giving you a base 24% crit damage increase as well. This makes it really good, honestly, for just about any character on your account. Like, we're gonna get into the rest of the ability here in a second, but just overall, what this thing gives you off rip is just really good for any character in the game, any attack character, I guess you could say, in the game, and honestly, it might not be a bad pickup if you haven't picked it up already for using it on other characters. But what this also is going to be doing, guys, is buffing every single ice DPS on your account, even the likes of me, because she likes to crit rate. But if we're talking about ice attackers on your account, which would be Ellen, Joe, and Hugo, whenever they use an EX special attack, chain attack, or ultimate attack to deal ice damage, you'll be getting absolute 0 death sentence for 3 seconds. When you're in this state, you're going to be ignoring 25% of the enemy's defense when landing a hit. Now, like I said, this can work for both Ellen, Joe, and it can work for Hugo as well, obviously. But the reason why it works for Ellen is obviously she's going to be using EX skills, ultimates, everything like that. So you basically have short little windows to ignore the enemy's defense, whereas why this works so well with Hugo is essentially whenever you're using his EX skill, which is normally when you're going to be using Totalize anyways, so you're getting 25% the defense ignored to the huge damage number you're already doing. So this is absolutely massive for him. This is bar none his best in slot. Now there is a gap between what this best in slot W engine is and what I am going to say the second best in slot is, and that's really any of the other signature W engines in the attack class. Like if you had Ellen Joe's signature W engine, this can work really good on him too. There's also a couple others that will work pretty good with him. I'll throw them up on screen now, but you probably have these equipped to your other characters, so why take them off those characters to use on him? But we're hopping into the third best in slot now. That is going to be Cannon Rotor. Now this is going to be a BPW engine, but at base it gives you a 20% free crit rate increase. But on top of that 20% crit rate is giving you guys, it's also going to be increasing his attack. And then on top of that, guys, every single time you land a critical attack on the enemy, you'll be doing an additional 200% of his own attack to the enemy as well, which can trigger once every 8 seconds. This can work pretty well because normally you're doing your big burst of damage when the enemy is broken down and you're doing the totalize on the enemy. And having it at 8 seconds here is not too bad because there is a time frame you have to re-break the enemy, and normally that's over the 8-second marker. So essentially every single time you're doing your big burst of damage with him, this will be back up most of the time. It really depends on the team you have, but we're going to talk about teams right after this. I do want to talk about the free-to-play options here, that being Mercado Desire. It gives you an inherent crit rate increase, which is just overall really good for him. But on top of this, guys, whenever you're using an EX special attack or chain attack, you're increasing his own attack as well. If the enemy has an anomaly, you'll be increasing that even further. And then also, guys, I would recommend Starlight Engine for the other good one. This just gives you a lot of attack percentage. Realistically, guys, there are not that many good free-to-play options for him because he really wants crit rate, and unless you have Mercado Desire, then it's maybe kind of hard to run it. Not gonna lie to you guys. We're not gonna dwell too much on that. That'll be in the do not summon coming down the road here, so subscribe to the channel if you want to see that. Now let's go ahead and talk about his best in slot teammates, because you want to run him a very specific way. And why is that? Because of how his core passive kind of works. He gets massive increases to his attack whenever you have extra stun characters on your team. And not only that, guys, you want to be stunning the enemy as fast as possible, because when you're stunning the enemy, he can use Totalize, which basically takes a chunk of how much time the enemy is stunned for, and they're doing a massive damage proc off on the enemy. Now let's start off with his best in slot team first, guys. That is going to be a team with him, Lycon, and Lighter. Now the reason why this is the best in slot team here is because his Lycon will be helping just with his overall ice damage he's doing to the enemy, and then you have Lighter doing the same exact thing. Both of these characters are really reliable and really good at breaking. You mainly use Lighter here as a supportive character to really enhance that ice damage, and then Lycon's going to be your main breaker, I would say, because Lycon can just break the enemy so fast. Also, with being able to use both ults on both breakers, you can significantly speed up the time it does take to stun the enemy there too. So this is going to be the best in slot team. Now, if we're talking about other teams you can run here, you always want one breaker on the team. I don't think there's any doubt about that. So you either keep Lycon or Lighter on the team. But other alternatives here, guys, would be like a Trigger or a Ching-E. Trigger offers some off-field damage support, which honestly, in my opinion, maybe feels a little bit better in terms of fluidity than Lycon does, but that's neither here nor there. And then you have Ching-E as well, which just helps with overall damage you're doing to the stunned enemy. Other options you can run here, guys, would be like Caesar King, Astra, Nicole, and Shokaku. But you always, like I said, want to be keeping one breaker on the team. Honestly, there's not much flexibility flexibility in terms of what teams you can be ran here. All these teams can work. Just know that if you're not running 2 breakers on the team, you do lose a significant attack buff. So if you're going to be replacing one of those attackers on the team, you want to make sure you're replacing it with someone to give a good enough attack buff to compensate for the attack buff he's losing. He gets 300 attack buff when you have 1 breaker on the team and 900 when you have 2 on the team. So you need to make up for that 600 attack buff somewhere. That's why Seizure King is actually a really good option. She's a pseudo breaker, gives you 1000 attack buff, and also debuffs the enemy so you do more damage to them as well. So overall, just a really good option there to run. And then I think Astriel and all the other supports speak for themselves there. That's all that I have to mention on teams now, guys. Like I mentioned, pretty straightforward. Just run a breaker and maybe support there. It works. Double breaker also works there too. But now to talk about the moment you've been waiting for, the best in-slot disk drives. But before we get into that, guys, hit that subscribe button right now. We need to hit 10,000 subscribers by the end of the year. We're growing very slowly, and I really appreciate if you hit that subscribe button. The more subscribers we get from Zenless Zone Zero videos, the more videos for Zenless Zone Zero I make. So if you guys want to see more Zenless Zone Zero content over the HSR content, then hit that subscribe button now. We're gonna have a bit of a subscriber war between the HSR fans and the ZZZ fans. So which game is better? Let me know with your subscription down below, and a like on the video maybe too. I don't know, man. Please, God. I beg. Fuck. But now hopping back into those best in-slot disk drive sets. Honestly, guys, he doesn't have like a specific set for him, so maybe in the future, maybe 2.0, something like that, we'll get a new set in the game that really works for him. But as of right now, I'll mention these sets that can work on him. There are a couple different 4-piece sets you can run here, like a 4-piece Hormone Punk. It gives you increased attack percentage, just kind of all around the board. You could also run a 4-piece Puffer Electro here too, so it'll be increasing your pin ratio, attack percentage, and the overall damage you're doing from your ultimate move. And then finally, you can run probably a 4-piece Woodpecker Electro here too. It gives you increased crit rate. And then whenever you're landing a crit with a dodge counter, a basic attack, or EX special, you're getting an additional attack bonus as well. In terms of 2 pieces here, guys, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. 2-piece Woodpecker Electro, always really good here. 2-piece Branch and Blade, always really good here. 2-piece Polar Metal, really good here too. And then honestly, guys, if you wanted to, you could run a 2-piece of like 2-piece Polar Metal, 2-piece Branch and Blade, and 2-piece Woodpecker Electro. This would be the best form in terms of the 2-piece sets you can run. Honestly, run any of these sets here because there's not really a dedicated set for him right now. Let's go ahead and talk about the stats you want to be getting for him. Starting off with the main stats first. On that 4-piece, guys, you're going to be hitting crit rate or crit damage here. On that 5-piece is going to be ice damage or attack percentage. And on that 6-piece is going to be attack percentage here. In terms of those substats, crit rate, crit damage, attack percentage, you definitely want to be focusing most in the crit rate and crit damage here. Attack percentage can come after the fact, but crit rate, crit damage is super important because this build is kind of hard to obtain because he doesn't really give himself that many free stats, but he does give himself some free stats, and that's what we're on to now, guys. The kit breakdown, how he actually works, how the vampire actually is going to be sucking the life force out of the enemies, right? And genuinely, guys, that's kind of what he does with his core passive. The totalize effect that he does, guys, whenever you're hitting an EX special on the enemy, whenever the enemy finally gets broken, you're taking the amount of time the enemy is currently stunned for at this moment in time, and then reducing that down to 0, and then giving yourself a massive damage increase based off of the amount of time they're stunned. That's why Lighter is his best in slot, because Lighter increases the amount of time the enemy is stunned for. The more time the enemy is stunned means the more damage you're going to do with this effect, because you're getting a massive multiplier for each additional second you have stacked up here. This can go up to a max of 3,400 on the multiplier for this, so I can't understate this. This is absolutely massive. It's also going to be reapplying days to the enemy for each second of that stun timer remaining, so you can give the enemy back 25% of their days, so it's that much easier to stun the enemy again. But it's not over yet, guys, because he's also increasing the amount of days he's doing with his EX skill when the enemy is not stunned. On top of all this here, guys, the core passive keeps on going. Honestly, this core passive is getting like a Dokkan passive. Like, this thing is fucking massive for no reason. What it is also going to be doing is whenever you're in the Dark Abyss Revenge state, which is essentially whenever you hit a chain attack or a Hugo stuns the enemy, you'll be increasing his crit rate by 12% and his crit damage by 25%. And then, like I mentioned before, guys, if there's 1 or 2 stun characters on the team, you're getting an attack increase with 300 or 900, depending on if you have 1 or 2 stun enemies on the team. Like I said, absolutely massive core passive here. This is where all of his damage comes from. Like, this is the bread and butter, but he still does have an additional ability. Well, I don't think it's nearly as strong as the core passive. It definitely does help out, and this is going to be activating whenever you have a stun character on the team, which you always should have, or if you had another ice character on the team, maybe like Shokaku or something like that, right? But this is going to be increasing his chain attacks damage by 15% with a further 35% increase in normal enemies. When totalized is triggered, the damage dealt is going to be increased by 40%. His EX special attack will then be regenerating 20 extra energy when using it on normal enemies. So this is just going to help him get his special back up that much quicker. But guys, overall, that's going to do it for today's video. Are you excited for Hugo, or are you watching this video after you've already pulled your Hugo Vlad? Let me know in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, all that good fun stuff there. Or maybe dislike if you disliked, I don't know. Anyways, guys, that's going to do it. See you guys later, and bye-bye!